Okay, welcome to this class, online teaching on day one, meaning that you're teaching with true beginners. And so there's my email address, Blaine at TPRSBooks.com. You can email me with any questions. I'm very accessible. I'm very glad to help. That'll help you. This is just slight review from last week. Fluency comes from input plus interaction. The interaction is a key. TPRS is the perfect formula for interaction. So language acquisition is a slow process. Main thing that I want you to get from this process, this video, this webinar today, is just how slow this is and how much time it takes, how much repetition it takes to get it. You've got to be patient. The kids are telling you, be patient with me. I'm trying as hard as I can. So when we start out, we start out with a sentence. El chico es George. Now, there's another sentence, hay un chico, but we really don't do very much with that. We just start out with the boy is George. And so we add characters, but this shows you what this class starts out like at the very first. So after we've added characters, then I have them tell me back. I do describe la situación, which is tell me back what's going on. So this is an example of this girl, of what she could do the first class. And so I just want you, you're always listening to their language. Is their language strong and healthy? Their language is strong and healthy if they have little hesitation. Hesitation tells you they're not confident. So one of our rules is we have student actors answer with a complete sentence. This is a crucial part of this process. And this is against Krashen's input hypothesis, but it's an essential part of the process. The reason we need complete sentence answers, my wife and I were talking about this last night, is you need complete sentences so you can hear where they are. And hearing where they are slows you down in going through this process. So I put these two slides in there so you can see this very beginning class, where they started out on day one and where they are now. It's 42 classes later. They're all on YouTube. And if anybody needs links to those classes, I've posted them online. If you need them, email me. I'll be glad to share the links of those YouTube channels again.
Chico uno, Brad Pitt as Chico dos. Tú eres es Chico tres.
Okay, now tú eres es says you are is.
Tú eres Chico tres.
Correcto.
Luke es cuatro. Luke es Chico cuatro. Stella es chica uno. Lady Gaga es chica dos.
Correcto. Yay! Excellent. Okay, that's at the end of a class when she's probably had about an hour of Spanish. You can see how hard it is and how much hesitation she has. We teach TPRS a sentence at a time by having them tell us back what they know with the characters. You see how their Spanish is. Now that's an example of Spanish that's not strong and healthy. But these classes have all been posted on YouTube. So 42 hours later, 42 hours of class, I have the same girl. And it's in the same situation. I say, describe la situación, describe the situation, tell me what's going on. Now, when they tell what's going on, they're always telling from the point of view of a character in the story. In the story that I did this week, she was the girl Molly, and she told the story from her perspective. So this would be Spanish 1 about 9 weeks into school. So this would be how they would talk after 1/4 of Spanish 1.
Okay, yo soy Mali. Yeah. Yo tengo 3 mascotas. Una mascota es el vaca. El vaca se llama Margarita. Yo tengo 2 conejos. Un conejo se llama Fudge. El otro conejo se llama Hazel. Mi favorito conejo es Fudge, porque Fudge es negro y Hazel es blanco. No me gusta blanco. Yo no tengo. Is that right? I don't have.
Perfect. You're doing so much better than that, Carly. I just cheer you. You're amazing.
Yo no tengo
Una casa.
una casa. Ginger fue a mí. Oh wait. Yo vivo en San Jose, California. Yo tengo una amiga. Esa amiga es Ginger. Ginger fue a mí. Ginger, ¿quieres una casa para mí?
Just go to the Las Vegas part. That'll be easiest for you. Ginger
Okay,
fue a Las Vegas.
Ginger fue a Las Vegas. Ginger tiene una amiga. Esa amiga es Gertrude.
Okay, I'll stop it there. There's a little bit left, but you can see her progress from day 1 to day 42. And you can see also, she's talking in her own words. She's telling this story. She's describing this story from her perspective. She's saying, my name is Molly. She talks about her bunnies and that. By the way, Fudge and Hazel were the name of the 2 bunnies that she had. So when we introduced the pets, she told us 2 bunnies and told us their names, and she said why she liked one better. Again, she's all just telling this from her perspective and her point of view. Okay, so how we do this, this is all trying to get you to see what happens on day 1. So first of all, you have to learn TPRS rules, which is this doesn't matter whether you're online or whether you're in the classroom. So we always explain, whenever I make a statement, you will respond with an expressive interest. The expressive interest sounds like this. Oh. When I ask you something and you know the answer me in Spanish or the target language because it's a Spanish story. If the answer is yes, you say sí. If the answer is no, you say no. When I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, you need to guess, make it up. But there's 3 rules about guessing. You have to guess in Spanish because it's a Spanish story. That means that they can guess only with words they know. But they can guess with English proper nouns, which means that it's okay to guess with the word Waikiki, but it's not okay to guess with the word beach. They would have to know the word playa to be able to guess with the common noun, but they can guess with proper nouns. And TPRS is all about surprising me. Now, if you don't surprise me, I'm going to surprise you. I've got to have scripted out ideas that I can use for my surprises. in case the kids don't come up with surprises that are very, very good. Now, after a while, the students learn the surprises I like. So now when I teach, I accept almost all of their surprise guesses. At first, though, they would guess and I'd say, no, that's not right. And then I'd say a polar bear or something like that. Students answer when we circle, answer with a one-word answer. Yes or no, or is Tommy a cat? And they'll say yes. So we train them to answer with one-word answers. So then we also train them to answer in the target language or with English proper nouns. Triangling rules are different in that we don't get a one-word answer in triangle. Students answer in triangling with a complete sentence. We can triangle anyone in the class. And so but mainly triangling is reserved for the student characters. Every character in the story is role played by a student. I am also one of the characters. And so we triangle about all of the characters, and we also triangle about me. If they don't have the language to answer a question in a complete sentence, then we point and have them read the answer. But when we point, we're basically pointing to the verb. So if I say, eres chica uno, and you are chica uno, and you don't know how to say I am, I point and the girl reads the word soy. And then chica is already up there, and usually we'll have uno up there too. If uno's not there, we need to write it in. So here's the first slide. So this is the very first slide of our first story that we teach with PowerPoints. And so the very first sentence is I un chico. Now we don't do anything with the word I because it's not conjugated, it's idiomatic. It takes a lot of repetition. So that's something that's going to get strong and healthy over time. But it's so repetitive that we don't have to worry about it. The kids will get it easily. So the sentence that we're working on is El Chico es George. So we're trying to get our students strong and healthy with this sentence, El Chico es George. Now, the main thing, though, is strong and healthy means that we're doing all of these conjugations in singular. So we want the kids strong and healthy with soy, with eres, and with s. And we'll show you how we do this. So your goal is to get a student strong and healthy with 4 verbs. So we start out with ser, and estar, tener, and querer. Now this takes time. The very first story that I do is only one verb, only the verb ser, with several characters. And I'll show you how this goes. So to get strong and healthy on all 4 of these verbs, it will take you several hours, 4, 5, or even 6 hours. And it's just a slow process. Even then, they're not strong and healthy. Your goal is not strong and healthy. Your goal is progressing to strong and healthy. So how do we organize a story? And for 4 or more characters. So we always have a main character. So you can go back here. The main character is George. So the first sentence is, the boy is George. So when we're organizing it, every story has a main character. And we add ourselves as a character. And so if I'm a boy, then we'd say George es un chico, and then we add the sentence, George es chico uno. And then we add, since I'm male, I would say, soy chico dos. If you're female, you'd say, soy una chica. And so then you'd have a boy and a girl character. And so you've got to keep track of the numbers. And so you might add 4 boys and 1 girl, 3 girls and 2 boys, or whatever, but you just label each one numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. But we always have a celebrity character famous person or someone they all know, like another teacher or a principal. Maybe it could be any political person. Animals in Walt Disney stories are great for celebrity characters. Dumbo, Bambi, something like that. And then we have a personal character. Personal character is a student playing him or herself. When they play themselves, we have them. We like to take events from their lives and add them. Just like that girl, Coralie. She was playing the girl Molly, and she added her bunnies, and we had the names of the bunnies. So we start with a sentence. The boy is George, and the kids are reading this PowerPoint. So this is very easy because the kids can read it and they can read all the conjugations. So we're constantly triangling is asking the boy named George, George, are you a boy? He has to answer, I am a boy. If he doesn't know how to say that, he's going to read from the screen, yo soy, and then he goes up above and reads un chico. And then we get him so we can understand that. He'll be very slow at first. It just takes time to get them quick at this. This is a whole hour of one verb, of just this verb ser. So we assign a student to play George and we circle a sentence. We say, class, George is a boy. And they say, oh, is George a girl or a boy? Then they answer, who is a boy? They say, George. Then we say, is George an elephant? They say, no. So online circling is a little bit of a logistics problem. First of all, because of background noise, the preferred state is everyone muted, but they can't respond back unless they're muted. So they have to learn how to constantly unmute online. So that means that the idea of a core response doesn't work very well online. So then we ask, like on this sentence here, who is a boy? It's an open-ended question. The boy is George. So the first person to unmute and say George, that's what we want. Since it's a circling question directed to the class, they don't answer with a complete sentence. They just answer with the word George. Any student can unmute to answer. This takes a little time. We like quick responses, but that's just one of the challenges, the many challenges, by the way, of teaching online. But an advantage to circling is that we can do it quickly. Sometimes online circling involves maybe one kid or two kids that don't have background noise being unmuted, and then they answer those circling questions. Now, triangling is a different situation. Now we're talking to George. We say, George, are you a boy? He answers and says, yes, I'm a boy. Once again, if he doesn't know how to say that in Spanish, he reads it. I tell him back, yes, you are a boy. And then I could say, George, who is a boy? Now, if he doesn't know the word who, I point or gesture the word who and then point. Now, who is going to be slow processing since he doesn't know Spanish? And so if you look at our slide, we have who right up on top. We have to give him time to look at the word who and then to see what who, process it, and then hear a question, who is a boy? And then he'll answer it, I am a boy. This takes time. True beginners are going to be slow. And then he'll say, soy un chico, I'm a boy. We answer back and say, eres un chico. From there, we could go and triangle to another student about George. Triangling to another student would be, Molly, is George a boy? And then she would answer, say, yes, George is a boy. Then I would answer back and say, yes, George is a boy. And then I might say, is George a boy or an elephant? And then she would answer, George is a boy. She would answer with George is a boy because of triangling rules. Triangling rules specify that the kids have to answer in incomplete sentences. So Got to be patient with this process. It takes time. If you go too fast here, you will lose most of your students. How do you ever get them back once they're lost? This whole process, the whole idea of having students answer with complete sentences is done with the idea that you will slow down and go at their pace, not yours. No one can take this feeling of ease that you have in the language away from you. So you have the feeling that this is easy. The only thing that slows you down is hearing students answer in a complete sentence. Answering in one-word answer, which is what we did in circling, does not give you the feeling that this is hard. And in fact, it gives you the feeling that it's easy because they can process this. Remember, input is what gives students mental representation of language. They get this mental representation of language. But fluency, output, that's a different thing, and that requires input plus interaction and requires a lot of time. The key to learning and teaching true beginners is going slow and giving them the repetition that they need so those students can get confident in the verb that you're teaching. Going slow means you keep asking questions until you see progress towards strong and healthy language. Strong and healthy language is when they can answer with confidence, accuracy, and no hesitation. It's a process. It's a long process. It takes time. So you now add yourself as a character. You teach the story as a character, not as a teacher. This creates this feeling of communication. And so it gets you away from saying something like repeat, because we would never repeat in our stories. So by staying in character, this keeps us on the idea of communication. So we add a character. So adding a character means we add a new sentence. Our new sentence is I can start out with I am a boy. I am boy 2. In Spanish, it would be soy un chico. Soy chico 2. So then I can circle and direct my questions to the class. Am I a boy? Am I boy 1 or boy 2? Who is a boy? Now, if I say the word who, I've got to slow down. With kids that are new, true beginners, they'll be very slow processing on question words. Even though circling, they'll be able to answer, but it's slower. So you've got to give a little bit of processing time whenever you say an interrogative. Give them time to look it up on the screen. Keep asking questions. Am I an elephant? Am I a girl? So now kids are hearing first person, soy, over and over again. They're not only hearing it, but you're making it mean something. The reason this is such a powerful way of teaching is we make everything mean something. When we introduce the past tense, we're comparing it with the present tense in the past. We make it mean something. We make our characters mean something because there's different details about each character. So now we triangle. Triangling about me, I can say, class, I'm a boy, and then I go to any character. Well, we've only got one character now. So I can go to George and say, George, am I a boy? And then he'll say, yes, you are a boy. Now, if he doesn't know how to say the word you are, eres, or tú eres, you have to point to the screen so he can read tú eres. And then you'll answer back and say, let's see, am I a boy? He'll say, yes, you're a boy. This is wrong, by the way. I'll answer back and say, yes, I'm a boy. And then you could triangle with another student. Go to another girl and say, Chelsea, am I a boy? And then anytime it's one-on-one, that's triangling. So Chelsea, by rule, has to answer back and say, yes, you are a boy. In Spanish, I'd say, Chelsea, soy un chico. And then she'd answer back, sí, eres un chico. And I'd say, sí, soy un chico. Then I could ask, Chelsea, soy chico uno o chico dos? And then if I've already introduced George and myself as chico dos, then she would say, sí, tú eres chico dos. Okay, so now we've got two sentences. George is a boy and I'm boy two. And we really have four sentences because we have George is a boy, George is boy one, George es chico uno. We also have I am a boy, I am boy two or boy number two. So you can now, circling and triangling becomes easier because you have two sentences that you can circle and triangle. You are always looking for progress towards strong and healthy language. When you see that their language is hesitant and that they can't say these complete sentences very well, why, that helps you stay on the sentence. Gives you the feeling like, oh, their language is not strong and healthy. I've got to be patient with them and get their language strong and healthy. So we add a character. We start the process all over. Our third character is our celebrity character. So in my story now, George is boy one, I am boy two. So Lady Gaga is a girl. So we circle and triangle and we assign a student to be Lady Gaga. And so now the student is playing Lady Gaga. So when I need to circle, I can go to Lady Gaga. If I start out with the three sentences, so now I have these three sentences. George is a boy, George is boy one, I am a boy, I'm boy two, Lady Gaga is a girl. So now I can triangle or circle with any of those three sentences. So this is much easier. I have much more that I can do with three characters. I can triangle with Lady Gaga. I can triangle with George. I can triangle with Lady Gaga about me. I can triangle with George about me. I can triangle with any one other student in the class about me, about George, or about Lady Gaga. This is all the process it takes to get them strong and healthy with a verb. By the way, we chose this verb because it is the most common verb in Spanish. We use the verb that is used the most in our curriculum, since our curriculums are based on the words that are used most in the language. So for a check to see how students are doing, say, describe la situación. Try this to several students. This is you're taking a picture of their brain. You're seeing how strong and healthy is their language. Describe la situación lets you see, are the students getting quicker? How is their speed? How is their confidence? Are they confident in what they're saying? So this is what describe la situación looks like in a beginning class first day.
George es un chico número uno.
Correcto.
Y Luke es chico número 4. Y ya no sé.
Okay, Luke. Okay. There's an example. I could play, there's more I've got there, but it goes on quite a while. But that kid had even had some Spanish before, but it takes time. And when you say, describe the situation, you see their hesitancy and their lack of confidence. And so we just go through that process, and more kids that get to tell, then the more everybody gets to hear the same thing. Kids have mentioned how that helps them to hear everybody say the same thing. But none of this is memorized. Bill Van Patten said memorization has no place in language acquisition. And so since it's not memorized, they're all telling what they know. There's only characters in the story, but there's only one verb. So now we add another character. By the way, you can do describe la situación at any point. Like if you've only added one character, you'd say describe la situación, and they would only say George es el chico es George, or something like that. If you'd added two characters, you'd say George es chico uno, eres chico dos, since they're talking to me on describe la situación. So now we add a personal character. The personal character is always someone in class playing, usually with her own name. And so Molly is a girl in the class and is girl number 2, because Lady Gaga was girl number 1. So now we have 4 sentences. We have George, actually, you know, really, George is a boy, George is boy number 1. I am a boy, I'm boy number 2. Then we have Lady Gaga is a girl, Lady Gaga is girl 1, chica uno. And then we have Lady Gaga, or Molly is a girl, Molly is chica dos. So now we have our 4 characters. With the 4 characters, those are the sentences that you have. All of those sentences are what we call in play with the story. So you triangle and circle and describe la situación. Describing the situation is your ultimate formative assessment. You're saying, okay, can you do this? Do you know this information? Most kids know it, but they know it with very little confidence. And a lot of kids can't remember. And so this is where it takes time. But the describe la situación is lets you take a snapshot of their brain and says, you're saying, where are you in Spanish? Where are you in Spanish with this character, with these characters? The emphasis is always on the character itself. It's not on the verb. So you circle and triangle with all 4 sentences. You circle with the class. Since most of them are muted, any of them can unmute to answer. You can triangle with any one of the student actors or any one of the other students. The purpose of triangling is you're trying to see how strong and healthy is this? Can they answer? How quick can they come back with their answer? Have then the ultimate assessment. By the way, every time we triangle, it's a formative assessment. You're saying, okay, let me see how you're doing. And you ask him a question. Are you boy number 1 or boy number 2? And he has to answer back with a complete sentence. If he only answered with one word, it's not a formative assessment because you can't tell whether he knows it or not. You can only tell whether he knows it by having him answer in a complete sentence. So have some students describe the situation to give you an idea how healthy their language is. We're now starting to see strong and healthy language emerge. It's not there, but it's starting to emerge on the verb that you will teach. Go through the process all over again with a new sentence. Now, this whole process took me an hour. And so it took 1 class period with just the verb ser. So when I went to a second verb, that didn't happen till my next class period. But on the next class period, I started over from the beginning. The only difference was we already knew the student playing George. We already knew that I was a student. We already knew that Molly was a student. And we already knew that Lady Gaga was the actor. Okay, don't want a lot of questions. I've only got 20 minutes left. I'll take one right here. Grace, what was your question?
I was just wondering, is all circling always as a group and then all triangling individual? Always?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And since it's to the group, that's why we do one-word answers.
One word. Okay.
And it's triangling is to the individual. The purpose of
Okay.
triangling is to do this formative assessment. How is your language with this sentence? So I asked George about Lady Gaga. I say, George, is Lady Gaga a boy? And George says, no, Lady Gaga is a girl. Seeing how he can answer lets me see.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a great question, by the way. If you have a great question like that, you just ask and I'll answer it, because that was a great question. Okay, here's your next question. Next sentence. George is in Vancouver, Canada. So we have a slide representation of British Columbia, and we could add British Columbia there and Vancouver and Canada. And so here we have these verb conjugations. These verb conjugations are new for these kids. So we go through this whole process all again. But the difference is we already have our characters. We've got George, we've got myself, we've got Lady Gaga, and we've got Molly. So now all we do is add details about each character with our new verb. For the second sentence, again, we'll start the second hour of class. With true beginners, this takes a lot of time to get strong and healthy on a sentence. It's such a great sentence in Spanish, or in English too. In English, it's the same verb, by the way. But this is so good on location because we can go from general to more specific. So we say George is in California, George is in Santa Monica, George is in Starbucks. So all of that really, really helps. When students get slightly more advanced, you can add a place in Walmart. Like they're in the bathroom, they're in the penguin section, sección de pingüinos. You can add someone with an animal or groups of animals. Okay, I had one more question. I didn't see who it was. Go ahead and ask your question. Oh, I don't see it. You got to talk. You got to talk. Kyle?
I was wondering at what point do you start to introduce plural forms
Long time later.
of verbs?
Long time later. It might be 2 or 3 weeks of classes, maybe class 15, 10 or 15. You want strong and healthy on singular before you ever think of plural. And when you introduce plural, plural is going to take time for some kids. They're going to get it when they're ready to get it. But even with pretty advanced kids, they don't get plural every time. Good question. Okay, so now you're speaking. Okay, Grace, what's your question again? Go unmute and then you can ask your question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was just wondering, you keep talking about weeks and lessons and stuff. Are you meeting with these students more than once a week? Are you meeting every day? Or when you talk about a week class?
Good question. I met with them before, 2 hours a week. Since we went on coronavirus vacation, we now do 3 hours a week. And so it takes quite a while. So now it took us from September to almost now to get these 42 lessons in. We also missed weeks because of my travel schedule, but it's taken us this long at 2 classes a week.
Okay.
Okay, so now here's an example. This is my old class. And so the sentence is Bart is in California. We have several characters in play, and you can see that their language isn't strong and healthy, but you can see what their Spanish sounds like. This is very, very, maybe their second or third day in the process. By the way, these are kids that after 100 hours on an ACTFL OPIC test, ACTFL gave them the rating of intermediate mid, which is where you would expect them to be after years of high school Spanish. But anyway, you can hear where they're starting out.
Correcto. Bart, ¿dónde está Baldwin?
Baldwin está Boston, Massachusetts.
Correcto. Baldwin está en Boston, Massachusetts. Baldwin, ¿dónde estoy?
Usted está en Newark, New Jersey.
Correcto. Estoy en Newark, New Jersey. Gladys, ¿dónde estás?
Estoy en Atlanta, Georgia.
Correcto. Estás en Atlanta, Georgia. Gladys, ¿dónde estoy?
Usted está.
Okay, so this one kid where he said usted, a long pause, he barely said the word está because he was so unconfident of the word está. And then he said, I can't remember, Boston, I think, or Newark, New Jersey. These kids are now at an intermediate fluent level in Spanish. If you'll come in 2 weeks, I'll show you where this class is now. They are amazing Spanish speakers. Okay, adding surprises on where the characters are. Teach the students how to play the game of surprises in TPRS. So this is something that you'll probably have to lesson plan, the surprises. So I love being in the bathroom of Starbucks with a penguin who speaks Chinese. And then we had information about the penguin. Each one of those things doesn't add a lot of language, but it's very much a surprise to the kids. We're always looking for the progression towards strong and healthy language. This will, then you move on to another slide. Once you get to another slide, you start the same process all over again with your other side and with a new sentence. So the ultimate formative assessment is describe la situación. So this is what this sounds like after you've done a little bit of Spanish. Let's see.
You don't have to say every detail of this story. Isaiah, describe la situación.
George es chico uno.
Correcto.
Brad Pitt es chico dos.
Correcto.
Okay, he just said, I don't know. And so this was at the beginning, the end of the first class. So we had, I think, about 5 or 6 characters, and he could remember 2 of them. And so this was after an hour of Spanish. This is what you expect. Now, you can't tell that, though, without describe la situación. The describe la situación lets you have a snapshot of their brains, lets you see where they are. This alone will keep you on the sentence, keep you on track, so you won't rush through language, so you'll lose them. The entire class period was 1 verb. This then was the second class. So now we've got to go to George has a problem, and we've got to do this problem with all of the characters. So we always have the verb conjugations up because they need those verb conjugations in triangling. So we say, George, tienes un problema. So he's reading, you have a problem, as a question. And then he answers back, sí, tengo un problema. And so now he knows he has a problem. The screen tells that he has a problem. So then when you get to the word tiene, you go through this entire process. Each character needs to have a different idea. So you're comparing and contrasting your characters. So George has a problem. It's your first. So you circle, triangle, George has a problem. Then we add myself with this new verb. The new verb is I have 4 mini problemas. Oh no. We show emotion. Students learn by emotion, so I always react. If they got a problem, we always, oh, that's terrible. And so we have 4 mini problems. So if you are lesson planning, again, you're muted, so I want you to just take a second. Who's the third character? It's Lady Gaga. So you're going to lesson plan something with Lady Gaga having a problem. So you're going to lesson plan and you let the kids guess. Whoa, we find out that she has 8.8 problems. This is very easy in Spanish. 8.8 problemas. They can read it too on the, anytime they don't know why, you write it on the screen so they can see it. Okay, then you think of your fourth character. Remember, each one of these is introduced a little bit at a time. We do circling and triangling. So if I were doing this, my sentence, I have 4 mini problems, I would triangle with George. And I'd say, George, who has 4 mini problems? ¿Quién tiene 4 mini problemas? George would say, tú tienes 4 mini problemas. And then I could say, George, ¿tienes un problema? And he'd say, sí, tengo un problema. I'd say, George, ¿tiene 4 mini problemas? Then he could answer with, no tengo 4 mini problemas. Or he could say, tú tienes 4 mini problemas. Then the kids have more variety in what they can answer. Then we established Lady Gaga's 8.8 problems. So now, circle and triangle. This takes time. It takes a lot of class time with these 3 sentences in play. Then, add another character. Oh, Molly doesn't have any problems. Celebración para Molly. She doesn't have any problems. Then I go to Molly and I say, Molly, do you have a problem? And then she reads it. No tengo problemas. And I'd say, sí, tú no tienes problemas. Celebración para Molly. This takes time. But even taking a lot of time, you're not seeing strong and healthy now. You're only seeing movement towards strong and healthy. But it's going through this process that gets these kids at intermediate, mid, in 100 in our Spanish 1 program. Our kids are getting at an intermediate level, less than a Spanish 1 program. If you miss and don't get the idea of the repetition this takes with early learning, you'll bury kids by going too fast. So now we can add more information. We already said Molly doesn't have a problem, but we say, well, Molly's got a cat and the cat has a problem. Molly's cat doesn't have any cat diet Mountain Dew. Oh no, terrible. And then we can go to Lady Gaga about her problem. Her number 1 problem is, and then maybe her problem is she doesn't have cat Coca-Cola or cat diet Coca-Cola. It's always with a surprise. So now you're spending your class time working on ser, estar, and tener. This is going to be your 3rd or 4th class. This is getting into where they've had a lot of hours already, but you don't see strong and healthy language. So you need more repetition, more details, and more characters. Now, this would be about day 4 or day 5. When we get to this slide, which let's just say it's day 5, we're going to start the whole process over and review. We review the sentences from the first day by circling and triangling. And then we review the sentences from the second day, same process, circling and triangling. Then we review the sentences from the third day, circling and triangling. And so that would take a half an hour of this class. And then we go to this slide and we say, clase, George quiere una Coca-Cola. Whenever we have a new sentence, we start with the process of circling and triangling, We could go to Lady Gaga and I'd say, Lady Gaga, George quiere una Coca-Cola? And she'd say, sí, George quiere una Coca-Cola. I'd tell her back, sí, George quiere una Coca-Cola. I'd say, Lady Gaga, ¿qué quiere George? She'd answer, George quiere una Coca-Cola. I'd tell her back, sí, George quiere una Coca-Cola. I could triangle with George, ¿qué quieres? Or I could say, George, ¿quién quiere una Coca-Cola? I'm trying to get as much repetition. This is a new sentence. It takes time to get strong and healthy. We see whether it's strong and healthy by having them answer questions with this verb. So verb conjugations are always up there so they can read them. This is slow. It takes time. But by going through these different processes, these different characters, they get strong and healthy with the verbs. So you're going to have to lesson plan this. George wants a Coca-Cola. Want surprises with your characters. So your second character is me. So I want something. So what do I want? I want a Pepsi. So now we can compare and contrast. George wants a Coca-Cola. I want a Pepsi. Circle triangle with George and about me. I can say, Lady Gaga, do I want a Pepsi? Quiero una Pepsi? And then she'll say, sí, ¿quieres una Pepsi? I'll tell her back, sí, quiero una Pepsi. Another character, Lady Gaga wants a Diet Dr. Pepper. New sentence, new process of circling and triangling. But now I can circle and triangle about George wanting a Coca-Cola. I can circle triangle about me wanting a Pepsi. I can circle and triangle about Lady Gaga wanting a Diet Dr. Pepper. So I can go to Lady Gaga and say, Lady Gaga, ¿qué quiero? And she'll answer back, ¿tú quieres una Pepsi? Now, if she can't answer that, she reads it because we have it up there. We have the reading, the verb. She can read the verb. And then circle triangle with other students in the class about tú quieres una Lady Gaga quiere una Diet Dr. Pepper. Oh, this is negative. I'm sorry. No quiero una Pepsi. I didn't read that right. So that's my sentence. Clase, no quiero una Pepsi. And then we haven't established what I want. We can establish that I don't want a Pepsi and what I want later on. Always a surprise. Molly wants a Diet Red Bull. Now, someone in the class will say, maybe say, they don't make that. And we just say, one of the number one rule of my Spanish class is, todo es posible en la clase de español. We teach them everything is possible in our class. The number two rule is, es mi cuento. It's my story. Now, as kids get more advanced, they have a harder time following the second rule, but you just have to deal with it. This is a slow process. It takes time. The whole purpose of this webinar was trying to give you the feeling of what it takes to teach fluency. You have to spend your time working on the frequency verbs. Okay, I got another question. Kyle, what's your question? You got to unmute. Make sure you unmute and talk, and then you'll go to the top.
All right. So I see how this works day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, but what about day 20, day 25? Do students ever get bored of answering the same question, you know, for a whole class period, describing the situation, just, you know, slowly adding onto a story? Do students ever come in and say like, oh, we're going to do this again, and just sort of check out in terms of interest?
Never.
And if they do that, never.
Never.
Right? Okay.
I'm going to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I've had teachers come to my class and Kids love talking. They love this process. I had a professor from Texas A&M come to my beginning class 2 weeks ago, and I emailed her afterwards and I said, what did you think of that class? She said, quote, their passion for talking is out of this world. I'm going to show you the very end in just a little bit. I'm trying to finish up here because I'm trying to say I'm going to go a little over an hour. But I'm going to show you a girl. Her Spanish is so good, it's almost not believable. I asked her one time, how much Spanish have you had besides my class? She said, I've only had your class. I'm going to show you on a Describe la Situación. This was done Thursday. This was our last class. Kids love this. This is exciting. Francesca, who's here in our class, stayed for a half an hour after our class the other day, and she talked to the kids about the class and just how much they loved it. I saw another question, but let me just finish this. We're close to the end. And then just want you to see how you go through this same process over and over again. Now, when you go through this with a new story, what happens is you're totally new characters, new kids are playing different characters, and you're starting with new details. When you're going through this, you're saying, now who wants a Diet Red Bull? And who wants a Diet Cat Mountain Dew? And that's what you're thinking about. Your brain is always engaged. It's always interesting. So this is how you get more repetition. Add more characters, quantify and specify. Add a number, get more specific. When you add another character, what is unique about that character? It's a cat who speaks Chinese. Why does he speak Chinese? He lived in Shanghai for 2 years and 6 minutes and 3.2 seconds. Quantify and specify. There was a little story about Myrtle. I just added it to last week. Myrtle was Ginger's grandma who lived in Detroit, and she had a big mansion. She needed a big mansion because she had 2 cows. She always wanted to walk in the park with her 2 cows. This is the joy and the thrill of storytelling. On Kyle's question, whenever you sense any boredom at all, you just add a surprise and make it interesting. Whenever you add that detail, take the detail and don't go describe la situación. Let kids show what they can do. This is one thing when Francesca stayed after class Thursday, the kids talked and they said, we love talking. We love showing what we can do. So this describe la situación, I can't tell you how powerful it is. So just want you to see this. So this was last Thursday, and this was Chelsea, the girl who had not had any other Spanish beside my class. She is Ginger in the story, and she's describing the situation at the end of class. This is the class that Francesca was at, by the way.
Mi papá y mi mamá y mi hermano Jeremy y mi perro Dexter. Dexter es un perro un poco diferente porque a Dexter le gusta comer pizza de persona con mucho queso. También Dexter tiene 2 amigos que viven en un hotel en Dead Horse, Alaska. El hotel se llama el Hotel de los Perros. Los perros se llaman Forge 1 y Forge 2. Tengo una abuela también, pero mi abuela no vive conmigo y mi familia en nuestra casa vive en Detroit, en una casa grande con sus 2 vacas, y mi abuela se llama Myrtle. Ella le gusta caminar las vacas en el parque cerca a su casa, pero me, no. I don't know.
That's perfect. You're perfect.
Tú, no, Molly, I should talk about Molly. Tengo una amiga, se llama Molly, y Molly vive en el parque en San José, California, con sus 3 mascotas. Uno de los mascotas es una vaca y el otro 2 mascotas es conejos. Se llaman Sarge y Hazel. Y Mami no tiene una casa. Es un problema para Molly. Y fui a San José y veo a Molly y le digo, hola Molly, ¿tiene una casa? Y Molly me dice, no tengo una casa, no estoy contenta. Y le digo a Molly, tiene una amiga, se llama Gertrude, y Gertrude tiene una casa extra. Es posible que Gertrude le da su casa a ti. I don't know if that's right, but y Gertrude le da casa a Molly, y Molly está contenta.
Okay. I showed you that so that next week I'm going to show you this 8-hour story and what we did, because they're now an intermediate. See you next week. Come back. We'll do it again.